What's cracking, everybody? I hope you're having a great day today, wherever you are in the world. From New York City, my name's Keegan Larwin, a 3D designer, look dev artist, motion designer, all that good stuff. Today, we're jumping into a game that really won me over in the end, considered widely by a lot of people as the best game ever made, which I think there's a lot of merit to that statement. We're looking, of course, at The Witcher 3, one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. And for that reason, we're gonna take a jump right in and just take a look at why this game is so freaking beautiful. Because it's beautiful. It's such a beautiful game. So here we go. Let's do it. So right here we are in, I don't know where we are. Let's check our world map. Oh, I've got those Nintendo controls, that A-B switch around. Here we go. So we're like smack dab in the middle of the quote unquote world map, even though it's not the entire world. And it's a beautiful fall day here. There are a lot of tricks that are being employed here to make this look so good. A lot of the kind of like run-of-the-mill stuff you'll see is obviously you've got, you know, sprites on the ground, lots of objects like these trees scattered, lots of environmental elements that, like most other open world games, are like fairly low poly, like not. I mean, this is actually a kind of a high poly structure, but still, they could have gone a lot more high poly with it. Clearly, it's less detailed than it could have been, just to save on save on resources there. Of course, you've got trees with planes as most of these leaves are just bits on planes. You can see the little distance going out. Nice. So pretty run-of-the-mill stuff, your standard material textures down here. But like, sure, they're doing a lot of like industry standard stuff when it comes to environmental design, but like, why does it look so dang good? And there's a lot of just like very soft artistic touches that have gone in to these environments. Namely, I just want to point out the wind. Now, wind is something you see in a lot of other games. And usually it's just some kind of script running through it. They don't usually do dynamics, or if they do dynamics, it's for reference. They usually have like a modifier that's affecting the animation, because dynamics is just something that's too heavy. So they do it in a lot of games. But what really strikes me about The Witcher is how realistic this wind looks. And it's not because of a simulation, I don't think anyway. I should look into it. But I really think what's going on here is the way this is animated is just done so with an artist's touch. You know, someone who knows the feeling of wind. You know, you see these trees bending like crazy up at the top. You know, if you've lived anywhere where you get really bad storms, this is what the trees do when it's crazy windy. They bend like this, nodding back and forth. And it's just such a beautiful, amazing way to portray this. And it doesn't look like just some normal run-of-the-mill, you know, turbulence that's being thrown on these things, or some kind of like deformer. It looks like real wind, which is just incredible. And you can also see it feels pretty standard on the grass. This is kind of what you would see in a normal game. All looks so good. And there's enough subtle variation in these grass and wheatgrass kind of textures that you don't get. A lot of times you can see, when you have like too few, you can see things start to repeat, and it kind of breaks that illusion of like a seamless field. The other thing to point out is obviously these birds. Now, if you've watched this before, you know that I am a big fan of adding birds to pretty much any outdoor scene. Birds just add so much life to any scene that you're doing. And even though their movement is kind of like, I mean, it feels, especially right here, it feels very realistic the way they're flocking. But earlier you could see they just kind of like crashed into the ground and whatever. So like, obviously not like an entirely realistic bird simulation, but it doesn't need to be, because who besides me, what weirdo is watching the birds fly around and saying, oh, that flocking behavior isn't realistic? Look at how they go away. They have like different localized patterns of movement. It's just, they're so beautifully crafted, and their movement and the way they flock, it's just, all good stuff. All right, let's hop up here. The last thing I want to mention about this, well, actually, there's a couple things. So I'm gonna get back off the horse. One, you can see that there's a lot of gray atmospheric perspective in this game. You'll notice that the foreground is it consists largely of kind of like reds, greens, kind of more of like an orange feel, especially over here. And what we can see happening right now is actually the clouds going over the sun. And that's it's a difficult thing to do. Usually when we're doing like 3D ray tracing and stuff, what we'll do is we'll essentially either pick an HDRI that has clouds, but you can't really get that movement. So what we usually do is put things to obstruct the sun and the sky. So the way they've got this realistic cloud movement as the clouds move past and occlude the sun, it's really phenomenal. It looks so good. I'm actually really curious to see how they did it, but it's just such a nice touch that really makes it feel like it's a stormy day. You know, you get the clouds passing over the sun and then coming back out. But wherever the sun touches, you see, it gets very golden, and the color's been pushed that way for a reason. When you're texturing assets, you just generally try and make them look as real as possible. And then once you get them in the scene, usually, that's when you try and conform all the colors to make it adhere to the palette you're looking for. Even the greens here are tinted very red. It's a very fall feeling. So, as I was saying about the atmospheric perspective, you can see, and by atmospheric perspective, I mean basically the things that are further away from you, the viewer, the further away they are, the more atmosphere there is between you and that thing. And depending on like the humidity of the day and like, you know, different things about the air chemistry in your area, your altitude, it can all affect how that fall off happens. Obviously, The Witcher here is a fantasy. It's a fantasy story, so that fall off is extremely extreme, and it's very blue. Now, the fall off in real life is pretty blue just because of the sky. Obviously, things that are far away, more of that sky is in between you and the faraway thing, so you're going to see more kind of a blue haze in between you and the thing. But this is obviously very stylized and very color corrected to get that nice blue-orange complementary contrast, or the cyan and orange, we might say. And once again, there the clouds go. It just makes it feel so mysterious, you know? Like, even though technically the sun's right there, it just feels so good. So yeah, you see this atmospheric perspective just falling off to this nice saturated blue color with that water back there. And how just pretty much everywhere you look, you've got the orange contrasting with the blue of the clouds. Just a great color contrast. So good. Masterfully done.
Hey, yeah.
So let's take a little jaunt here. Let me verify. We're gonna go up here-ish.
Slow now. Whoa.
The faunas are really nice. Fauna, of course, being animals, flora being plants.
Whoa.
Let me go ahead and set a marker. Ooh. Let's just, there we go.
Slow now.
Whoops.
Hey, yeah.
Just trying to remember what that fast travel button is. It's fine. This town looks great, all for very similar reasons. You know, you've got the wind. Scattering's pretty run-of-the-mill. Scattering of objects, I mean. Not any kind of light scattering. Just very well crafted, obviously. Am I going the wrong way now? No, we got to go north. All right, we're going cross country.
Come on.
We don't have time to fight people. Look at the orange on these trees. Really, I mean, we're getting into that golden hour kind of lighting. Oh, that's a quarry. I remember this. We're getting into that like golden hour lighting, so everything's getting even more golden, and that like blue and the thing is, and here's something that I've got to get off my chest a little bit. You get, when people start to like pay more attention to art trends, when they become more popular, I think they get blown out of proportion a lot. So for example, People love to hate on J.J. Abrams because he loves to use anamorphic lens flares. But like, guess who also loves to use anamorphic lens flares? Frickin'
needs to be destroyed.
I don't want to destroy no nest. Friggin' Steven Spielberg loves his anamorphic lens flares. Oh, am I gonna be able to get through here? Dog, maybe not. Steven Spielberg loves anamorphic lens flares. Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think it was, when that... Am I choking on stuff? I really should have charted this journey out better. Oh yeah, I'm in it now. I gotta go, here. Woof. All right, good to know. Man, this game's so beautiful. So anyway, yeah. Steven Spielberg loves anamorphic lens flares. We don't give him crap for it. Yes, I will agree that the lens flares were a tad gratuitous in the first Star Trek movie. But like everything else, honestly, it's been fine. Leave J.J. Abrams alone for that reason. You can dislike him for other reasons, of course, but he gets a bad rap. So another trend that people kind of like to ridicule, and this is just in general, is the use of cyan and orange as effective color contrast. And I think people think that it's overused. It's kind of like the 1-5-6-4 chord progression. Oh man. Dude, the water in this game just slows you down. I mean, it's realistic though, so. Yeah, it's like the 1-5-6-4 chord progression that Journey uses all the time. You know, people like love to ridicule it. They love to be like, oh, it's so overused. And in art, it's really orange and blue people have like this problem with. But the thing is, orange and blue is like, it's like hardwired into us, you know? Whenever you see a sunset in real life, the sky is actually blue. The sunset is actually orange. And if you like look at a sunset and are like, it's a tad overused. I think the color palette is a little like, that's just kind of like, oh, why are these people all screaming? Is it because I'm flying through here on my horse? The crowds are great. We'll get to the crowds later when we get to the dang city. Oh.
Come on, Roach.
So yeah, blue and orange, perfectly acceptable. Most of the great artists use it. I'm not a great artist, but I certainly use it. Sticky controls, man. Oof. Okay, we made it. Now we can. Are there any more like swamps I need to worry about? No. Okay. Just like to have that marker there, just to have a heading. Ooh, these storm clouds look so good.
Hey, yeah.
Now, it should be noted that the sunlight never really makes sense. The sky that you see never really matches with the sky that's lighting everything. Oh no, is this the nighttime thing? All right. So this works in The Witcher. It's fine. However, I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with most games, and I know why they do it. But you could forgive me for thinking that it was like just a stormy day. But that is not the sun. I don't think. No, that is the moon. It is, oh, it's 10 a.m.? Oh, then it is the sun. It's just, oh, never mind. Grievance withdrawn. It's just a very stormy day, I guess. But what I was going to say is at night, the moon is always too bright in every game. The night is supposed to be dark and scary and full of terrors. You know, people have a natural fear of darkness for a reason, and all kinds of games. Whenever it's just like basically daytime at night, like why even bother? Why even bother having a day-night cycle if night is gonna be just like, especially for The Witcher, you know? But it is 10 a.m. game time, so perhaps it was a little hasty of me. All right, so we're on the outskirts of this beautiful city. Right away, let's take a peek here. Honestly, the textures in this game are so beautiful and detailed. You hardly ever see any tessellation. They're just like beautifully painted. And of course they are tessellated, it's just very cleverly in a way that you can't see it, using certain textures like this wavy sand texture to kind of go over the sandy sand texture. And this lighting is very drastic. So one thing, and what I would love to see is a ray tracing, and like a ray tracing Witcher mod or ray tracing support, is that the drastic sunlight would be causing these intense shadows, but really, some would say that you would need like a HDR setup to be able to make out the details in this house right before us, for example. Like the sky is perfectly exposed. Well, pretty much perfectly. This stuff is pretty well exposed, but this is in complete and utter darkness. And yeah, obviously a lot of that does come down to dynamic range, which basically defines the gamut of black to white. Low dynamic range setups, the blacks are kind of clipped or crushed, and the whites are kind of clipped. Our eyes are like really good at dynamic range, which is why when you take a picture and you're like, I can't see the person, or the sky's blown out, but with your eyes you can actually see it. It's because your eyes and your brain also have just a much higher dynamic range than most cameras and what most screens can produce. So if we were doing an HDR display right now, or if this was tone mapped down, it wouldn't quite look as real. But the thing is with ray tracing is you would get, the sunlight would be hitting these walls, and that light would be super bright and it'd be reflecting back. So you actually would be able to see detail on this, making it even more realistic. So you can get realistic lighting situations. Honestly, if you have a blend of HDR plus ray tracing, I mean, that's it. That's gold right there. Okay. Let's take a little walk to the into the city here. Nice parkour there, Geralt. I hear some people call him Geralt. Geralt? I'm not sure. Fire's pretty good. It almost looks like they're using real reference here. Ah, okay, now I'm on fire. It looks pretty good for game fire, I'm not gonna lie. It looks like a little, I know it's super, you might not be able to tell because everything is kind of low frame rate from your perspective, but from here I'm getting probably, feels like 60 to 80, probably more honestly. The fire, not on Geralt, but this fire here looks very low frame rate to me for some reason. Not sure why that is.
Wonderful.
Yeah, like that fire does too. There's I wonder if it's because there's a fire's a little bit tricky because the way your eye perceives the movement of fire changes depending on how far close it is. So a fire like a candle right next to you flickers a lot. It's crazy how fast those candles flicker. But then a fire that's really far away feels kind of more flowy, almost like a river. So I wonder if they filmed a very small fire and then had to scale it up, but the movement wasn't right, so they had to then slow it down, which they didn't have enough frames for. Just a theory. But this does look like, see now this fire, this is more of like a video game fire. It's kind of like moving sprites. And this actually looks pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, that looks really good.
You'll choke to death on 3 pounds of steak.
Just going through the village. The crowds are just beautiful here.
What do you seek pain, you that?
Honestly, whatever the next Elder Scrolls title does for us, there's some good birds. Whatever the next Elder Scrolls title does for us, I really hope that they take some notes from The Witcher 3 when it comes to these towns, because they really feel alive. It's not just the sound, but just the vast array of different people. And basically what they do is they have like, they mix and match like clothes, heads, bodies, to basically just generate like a crazy different amount of possible villagers. I'm not sure how procedural it gets. I don't know if they're the same villagers every time you enter, or if they generate them at the start and then they populate the map. That's are so good. But yeah, I mean, just the cities in this game feel so alive. So nice. It doesn't feel like they're hiding geometry at all anywhere. Everything feels like it's, you know, actually there. Doesn't feel like there are any tricks, even though there certainly are. And, you know, the environment designers here just made sure that everywhere you look, you have a beautiful view. The nice big tower there in the background. These nice shingled roofs, the bell. I mean, that's just a well-designed tower too. So good.
Crawl back under your rock. Find the guards. Where's the thugs?
Got so fucked up once. Blood came out of the ears.
You go, girl. This is gonna be a dead end. It's just so hard to see. It's almost as if it thinks I'm playing in HDR when really I'm not. Really beautiful. That atmospheric perspective close up still looks pretty good. I feel like there is some amount of fall off.
Excuse me?
Because, I mean, technically the fall off would start immediately and then gradiate into something super blue in the background. But it's kind of hard to see because it's just so subtle. And I actually don't know if that fall off is linear or if it's like if it's some other function, you know?
Help a woman in need.
These models just look so good. And there's, I mean, these assets like are pretty low poly. Fairly low poly anyway. I mean, they look great. But there's just so many of them and they're placed so well and so artistically. And also the camera's always pretty far enough away from them that if this were a first person shooter and my head were right where Geralt's head is, these like weird lettuce wrap things, which look pretty delicious honestly, would probably look a little chunkier. Just walking around more here, more of that good fire. This fire looks good. Again, if this were ray tracing, it would be casting more light. It is doing a good job casting on Geralt here.
Maybe go fuck yourself.
We'd see reflections of it in this wall, bouncing from the fire down to the wall, back up to our eyes. But again, it's fine. These flocking birds look fantastic. Oh, they look so good, especially silhouetted against this like really beautiful sky. The skies they captured for this game are really, really pretty. I'd love to see the artists sketch these out. And also the thing is, these skies have to have like brightness values assigned to them so they can exposure up and exposure down. I wonder if they make these at like a higher dynamic range and then exposure them up or down depending on how you want to see it. Very fascinating. The thing is with this game, they do such a good job at hiding the seams. Like there's obvious stuff that you can't avoid, obviously. You know, 2D planes as like leaves and stuff being one of them. Lack of ray tracing is easy to point out. You know, there are limitations with the technology. But really, they've just done such a good job hiding so much of it. It's just, I mean, and that's really what any illusion, be it like visual effects or any 3D thing you've ever seen. It's not about going in and building that thing for real. It's about building that thing to like a believable standard and hiding everything that you don't see. You know, it's very similar to like street magic in that way. You know, it's about misdirection, making people not look, to not see the seams in the illusion. And they do a pretty damn good job of it. This crowd is pretty big and expansive.
And whosoever contributes toy to the cause, his sin shall be forgiven. Only unwavering faith in the power of this stupendous
I'll have it for you next week.
It's so dark though.
We're not in no one's way.
Flower design is great. I mean, it's just this wall texture. I mean, it's just like so much work went into this game. And like, it's not my favorite game of all time, but if it is yours, I mean, the art alone and how beautiful this game is really. I mean, I feel that it's deserving of all the accolades it got.
Eternal fire. Father of all. Hear my prayer.
Got a foolproof method for exercising.
Hey, there are mouse droppings in this bread.
Droppings. Those are reasons. This is
Your reputation precedes you,
You
Kate.
kept us half the day.
Voice acting is top notch.
Long live Run-a-Bit.
How do I calm a horse? Whoops. No. It's gotta be one of these buttons. I'm pretty sure it was a long hold.
Is to be mud, might as well be rain.
Sheathe your sword.
Sorry. Press it twice. Be good if you read the directions once in a while, geeks. Alright.
Hey there.
And we are
Oh,
off.
there.
Actually, let's take a moment. See if we can't. Oops. I think I have to go to a fast travel thing to be able to fast travel. Yeah, that's right. Remembering this now.
Take it easy.
All right, fast travel signpost. Where are we at? Right. Oops. Nintendo's got me all backwards with these dang controls. All right, let's roll. Geese, they just have so many different variations, texture. I mean, it's just like
Come on, Roach.
I said, so hard to see the seams. They put so much detail into this. I mean, look at these geese. They run away accurately, and they kind of have like this funny little character to their animation. And then you've got the black one sprinkled in there, so you don't get like that. Is that one different than this one? I think it might be. You've got all these different like variations. It's just like, it just adds so much to the believability. I mean, sometimes you look at some of the stuff and you wonder if we're like ever gonna see a game like this again. Not a game like this, but something as I mean, Cyberpunk, obviously. All right, we're gonna go. Let's start far. We're gonna start far away and then work our way to the big old castle. This art is great. We here at Carpe Ludos love the black on the faded black image.
Move it. Faster.
Whoops, looks like we had a bit of a crash there. Running 2 instances of OBS and The Witcher 3 at the same time.
Hey there.
We'll do that. I wonder where the bottleneck was. Might have been the GPU actually. Running a little high at the moment. Ooh, don't want to go that way. So yeah, as I was saying, we've got a great amount. Flora, fauna, really just making this world feel alive. Making it feel absolutely beautiful. Just keeping an eye on the old GPU percentages there. Looks like we're doing fine. And also the ability to like hands-free maneuver through the world is just like, it's nice because it really mimics that feeling of, you know, being out on the road. When you're walking or riding a horse, it's mostly muscle memory at that point, so you're free to kind of look around. Oops, not with that joystick. You're free to look around and just see like what's going on. See that glorious mountain behind you. And it may feel, I think developers before this was a common thing, really before The Witcher 3 did it, it probably felt like the automation was like a bad thing. But realistically, I should probably go the other way, right?
Slow.
But realistically, automation isn't always, oh yeah, I was going the right way. Dope. Automation, especially in this case, it turns out to be more immersive because it takes your mind off of like, you know, maneuvering this clunky horse. Because I mean, sorry, Witcher 3 controls are extremely clunky. Not gonna fault them for it. It's still a great game. Clunky controls. Oh, is that the town I was supposed to turn at? Yes, it was. And then turn right at this town. Yeah, so like, it's clunky. So they essentially take away that, you know, the struggle of maneuvering. They take away the struggle of interfacing with the world. Because like right now, me trying to maneuver this horse through this thing, it's not easy. And it's a little glitchy, a little sticky, and it's not always fun. So having to do this through the entire countryside would be terrible. But now that I can just auto run, it's absolutely incredible. It lets me admire so much of this beautiful art. Once again, we've got this orange-blue color contrast. Oh, this is not where I wanted to go. Go, 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 go. I could have sworn it was right at the town. Where did I go wrong? Do I need to take this V? Oh, yep. Let's just verify really quick so I'm not going the wrong direction for y'all. Yep, there it was. Well, good to know. Check the map frequently. I know I could set a thing, but I'm kind of eager to get lost here a little bit. The Skellige Islands, I just love. They remind me so much of Latvia, where my family's from. After going there, like literally while I was there, I was like, this whole country feels like Skellige from The Witcher. And obviously the mythologies are very close and similar. Back before the Christians came in and made everyone Christian, there was basically paganism, but paganism's, I don't want to say it's a misnomer. Paganism is kind of, it's really just the Christian word for non-Christians. So when you say pagan, you think like human sacrifice, people worshiping trees, Merlin. You know, you think of all these like things come to mind, and that's kind of just been established by the culture that we live in. But in reality, they're in Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, and honestly, in everywhere pre the Romans, there was just a million different belief systems. There were all kinds of different gods, all kinds of different deities and practices. And just tons of different kinds of religions that were separated. And then when Christians came in to Christianize or Protestantize or Catholicize, you know, their various parts of Europe, those beliefs were just kind of labeled as pagan. Just kind of, it's really a blanket term to describe things that are non-Christian, like I said. So a lot of the culture that I saw when I was in Latvia is very similar to the cultures and traditions you see here. You know, lots of focuses on the solstices, on the equinoxes, is that beautiful castle. Oh, it's so dark, I can't see anything. Why are they cheering? Is this because I beat the game? Get back on Roach. Sure. Oop. 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 My Midwest is coming out. Oh. 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 Okay. Sorry, I'm done digging around. So yeah, it's just so nice to see like all those kind of like, because the thing is the pagans didn't really have a chance to cement their belief systems. Any pagan culture really didn't have much of a chance to cement their belief systems in like an epic that kind of defined their generation, you know? Like Hermes had Homer had the Iliad and the Odyssey, you know, kind of like cementing that culture as like making it the classical culture. But the pagans never really got that choice. Before they like reached that kind of point in civilization, they were conquered. So a lot of it was lost. So a lot of what's great about the Witcher series and why the author, whose name I can't remember, is described as like the Scandinavian Tolkien or whatever, is because he takes a lot of those old cultural elements, the way Tolkien did, the old pre-Christian folk tales and mythologies, and kind of brought them into this new canon that everyone could sort of rally behind and reclaim. And that's what this series does with, you know, that Northern European pagan culture, and it's just, I mean, it's a really great thing. So there's your little like minor history lesson for the day. Love this castle. Nice environmental fall off there, atmospheric fall off there. It's kind of hard to see. This castle is silhouetted a little bit, so you can kind of see it, but it's built into the side of the mountain. Love it. All these rocks, similar to Apex, a lot of them seem to be clustered groups to form a mountain. But a lot of it also appears to be photogrammetry. I mean, it looks so natural that some of it, like maybe this over here, facing that direction, that I just did a sweet somersault towards. A lot of stuff in this direction doesn't quite look like photogrammetry, but this mountain over here, I mean, it looks great. You can kind of see the textures tessellating, actually. But if they weren't photogrammetry, it really took a serious artist's touch to just, you know, sculpt that. So beautiful. Wind sound effect kicking up. I mean, the sounds in this game are so visceral too. The sound of feet crunching. Feet are fun because, and I'm not a sound effects artist, so take this with a little bit of a grain of salt, but a lot of different games that I've read about will essentially, they have different sounds for the sole, for the balls of the feet, for like the boot type, and they'll combine these and essentially mix and match to make procedural sounding footsteps. So every time you step, it's slightly different. And I'm sure they're phasing it a little bit too, but it's a bit beyond my purview.
Respect Witcher.
Ah, did you hear that? Listen closely to the way the wind changes when you're in the tunnel, and then listen while I emerge. It's so good. You can feel it opening up in the stereo. I would love for someone to do some episodes in the Art of Games just focusing solely on the sound. That'd be great. If you'd be interested in that, you let me know, because I think it'd be super cool. It's dark as heck in here, too.
Something I've always wondered. What'll you Witchers do once there are no basilisks, leshens, or giants around? Eh?
This is straight up the darkest game ever made. You can see the nice highlights on the sword, though.
Away with you.
I kind of want to go on that balcony, actually. Not much to note, because there's not much to physically see in here.
A killer.
Ooh. A lot of weird times in this this great hall. This also might be because it's incredibly bright in the room that I'm in. Which doesn't always help the situation. It's nice windows. Windows, obviously, at this time period are very... it's an anachronism for sure. But, like, who cares? They look good.
Something I've always wondered. What do you witchers do once there are no basilisks, lashing, giants?
Tired, huh?
Snow's great. Love this little mezzanine type thing looking out. Nice crow takeoff there. Just so good. I'm trying to get a nice panoramic view of this. Just so beautifully put together. Look at all those trees, the level of distance, you can barely even tell. Luckily there are no scopes or anything in this game, so I can't zoom in and check things out. You know, you've got these clouds still catching, these clouds up here catching the last of the sunlight as the sun sets. Just overall, extremely beautiful. You got this snow wandering around. You can see these little like circle textures on the ground every time a snowflake hits, creating a little bit of a splash, showing that it's like kind of warm, but it's still cold enough to be snowy. It's actually rain. But there's still snow up here. A good kind of sleety mix. Just really incredible. And I might sit here and meditate for a day so it can be a little brighter. End this on a brighter note. Let's see. Oh yeah. Oops. Let's go till noon.
We gotta drag their corpses
Oh yeah.
out of the inn.
Bright as heck. Woo. Alright, so now we can see a little bit better. These mountains are just gorgeous.
Want to keep an eye on him.
Like I said before, it's so hard to see the seams in this game because they're so well hidden. So beautifully done. Can I climb up here? Oh, I can. Oh, dog. I didn't know that was possible. I think it auto-saved when I got done meditating. Just wanted to look out over the splendor of Skellige for a second, but alas, it was not meant to be. Oh, we'll try it one more time. All right. Oh yeah, look at this view. Textures are good, water's good. You see the bricks in this castle, you don't see them repeat. I mean, this is something that now that I'm noticing, now that I'm like looking at it very critically, and you know, if you've watched the show, you know I'm eager to point out where textures, the tessellation is off, or where you can see them. But I mean, this is beautifully done. I mean, this is ready to ship out to like a post house, honestly. Like, I would love to see it. I'm actually, after this, I'm gonna see if anyone's attempted to throw some ray tracing into this game. I mean, it would be a lot of rays being cast and a lot of rays bouncing. But you know what? They would look so good, that tower out there. It would be great. So that's all for this episode. I really just wanted to point out, I mean, this is a game that's so beautiful. The artistry is so good. The seams are so hard to spot. That it becomes more difficult as someone looking at it critically to see where they did what, and that's really the mark of a master. You know, whenever I'm doing client research and looking at projects and seeing like, how did they do that? Like, we're in the same field, we're using the same tools, but me being like, how did they do that? It takes someone with a team, really a massive team in this case, with a lot of ingenuity, a great sense of artistic direction to just really pedal to the metal and create something that feels so seamless and so perfect and so beautiful. You know, Skyrim, for as beautiful and as nice as that game is, it is janky. You can see the seams. If you look at anything too close, it gets a little gross, gets a little hairy. This game, it's really hard to point anything out. And a lot of it's just because A, they've done such a good job at hiding those seams, and B, an artist has clearly gone through, a team of artists and art directors and creative directors really had a vision for this game, and it shows. And congratulations to anyone. If there's any chance in the world that someone who worked on this game is watching this, you did a fantastic job. Just a beautiful game in every way. Huge ups, huge congrats. I don't know if I will review a game that is such high fidelity and beautiful so photorealistic and so beautiful at once. I don't know if I'll we'll touch on another game like this. So this is really top tier. If you haven't played this game and you have the machine to run this at max settings, do it. You'll learn a whole lot, and it's really just something to play. So that's all I got for you today. Thank you so much for watching. From New York City, my name is Keegan Larwin. You've been watching The Art of Games. Till next time, thanks.